to build the movement, and the movement will free us.
The United States has been waging war against Indians since they got here. They've been waging war against Puerto Ricans since the Spanish-American War in 1898. They have been waging war against Africans during slavery and then after we got out of slavery. And we were never offered the opportunity to choose our own political future. In other words, some of our people would have said after slavery, I'll be glad to be a U.S. citizen since we have ended slavery. Others would have said, give me my money and let me go back to Africa, back in quotation marks because we'd had several generations. And others would have said, we want the independent state.
We always say the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to.
And Voices of New Africa coming up right about now.
We always say the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary.
These are the voices of New Africa. These are the voices of New Africa. These are the voices of New Africa. Free in the land, and we ain't asking y'all.
And welcome y'all to the Voices of New Africa. I'm your host, Brother Prophecy, and I got my co-host, my comrade with me, Kakaye, and our Grandmaster Teacher, Fadali. And we just ended the radio portion of our broadcast, and we're here today on our social media platform. So make sure y'all give this video a like and share this. Let everybody know. And if you could do me this really big favor, just tag in somebody in the comment. Just write the name of somebody who you think would be interested in this type of comment. This type of content, who would benefit from this type of comment, so we can continue to spread and we can continue to grow and we can continue to build the land collectively and do this work of trying to build a better world together. But how everybody been doing, man? I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna try to share the program with everybody while y'all greet the audience.
Free the land. I have my will. Glad to be here. We are going to educate, uneducate, and re-educate the miseducated through this process.
Free land. Hi, I'm glad to be here as well. Actually, it's a wonderful experience trying to do some things differently. And I think because of who we are, we're going to continue to do different things because what we're all about is something different. And we're going to get that word out. It's about liberation. It's about the New African Independence Movement. It's about the things that are necessary for us to do that will guarantee our freedom. And like we all say, we will win. Glad to be here, Brother Prophet. I like this whole little concept. Being a part of NABA, the New African Broadcasting Association, it's an interesting experience. Because everything that's created by us starts off small and it turns into something large later on. And just knowing that we're part of history, just beginning this, and being a part of it. So that's another shout out I want to give out to NABA as well.
Start the show, man.
So you listening, you're actually viewing the Voices of New Africa stream live on Facebook. This is something that we want people to know that we do each and every Sunday from 12:30 till when it ends. And then we need the Grandmaster Teacher. Can you move that? Well, we don't need the mic.
No.
I got the radio. Grandmaster, so what's been going on internationally? Man? We need to talk to the people and let them know that these are certain things that can affect us and will be affecting us in many cases. that's going on internationally.
Okay, I would like to say that we are in the process of beginning to understand what our relationships are to other people and other nations. And I think last week we talked about the famine issues in Ethiopia and in Somalia, and we talked about how in Zimbabwe our people are trying to pan gold and using mercury, and they're polluting the water as a result of their search for gold in Zimbabwe. And so these are kind of things that we have to begin to understand how they affect us to the point of where our people are starving and they're trying to do everything they can to accumulate some kind of wealth out of this world system of capitalism. And what we have to understand is that we have gone through the process of capitalism, as our brother Prophet talked about, under colonialism, about the slavery, about the extermination of the native people in different areas, including the United States. And what we got to begin to do is communicate again with all the forces that are out there. In the 1970s, we had a lot of African Liberation Day, all the way up to about 1985 or later. And we were able to link up with our brothers and sisters that were under colonialism, such as Zimbabwe, which attained its so-called independence in 1980, Mozambique, and Guinea-Bissau, and Angola, which attained there in 1975, as a result of their battle against the Portuguese that became successful. Zimbabwe against the white settler forces that left by the British, and to the point of where we had heroes like Robert Mugabe and others in Nkrumah in the 1950s and up to 1972 when he died, that said that we must come together as a people, and that capitalist system is not the way for African people. And African people must begin to set up their own nations wherever they are. And we're talking about the Republic of New Africa. We're talking about the provisional government of the Republic of New Africa. And we had an extensive talk about capitalism and how world capitalism has affected our people, and how we must begin to understand that that it was built upon our backs, and it has never benefited us. We have done everything we could to become a part of the capitalist system. I'm talking not just us. I mean, all the other colonial countries in the world did the same thing. They still have relationships with these European people in Western Europe and United States, to the point that our people are starving in the areas that are very rich, such as the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is one of the richest areas on earth. Yet the people are in poverty, and the United States and Belgium and Britain and France are all concentrated in extracting the wealth from our people. Our people are dying of Ebola and malaria and all of these kinds of things. So, and here in America, we are dying. We die at a greater rate than any other group, except for the native people who are put on reservation, have been put on reservation.
Hey, Grandmaster T.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, because this is a good segue. When you talk about all of the things that are going on in these different countries abroad, Black nations, African nations abroad,
right?
It says a lot about their foreign policy. So what would the direction of the foreign policy of the Republic of New Africa look like if we see?
We are part of a settler colony called the United States. Our struggle is against settler colonialism just as much as it is in Azania, South Africa, just as it is in Kenya, just as it is in Zimbabwe. You got settler colonialism. The United States is a settler colony, and we have to break off from that colony as our people have done everywhere else in the world.
what would our foreign policy look like with
Our foreign
relationships
policy
with
has to
other
be
countries?
that we got to support one another. Our foreign policy is that we have to try to see what kind of resources that we may have, even in the impoverished African countries. We affected the direction of the liberation movements, not only here, but throughout the world, through Pan-African conferences and stuff, Pan-African congresses, and African Liberation Day. In other words, alert the people and Free South Africa. See, Free South Africa, remember that?
Right.
All right.
Yeah, I remember.
So, and who was the leader of those days? Randall Robertson. In other words, Africans from America, from the United States of America, were in the lead of all of those kind of conferences and all that. And we even tried to have a legitimate Pan-African Congress in Africa and Tanzania, but that was disrupted by the FBI, the CIA, infiltrating, and further dividing up the African countries in an organization of African unity, which became the Organization of African Districts. So consequently, that's what we're Malcolm X went and spoke at the Organization of African Unity. There was some hope of unity within that organization. Ultimately, they had to disintegrate and create another organization called the African Union, in which Gaddafi was in the process of funding it, helping fund it, to do policy, and he was assassinated by Barack Obama. So even the imperialists have used us against our own people. They have fun to create a state of Israel, and get no Nobel Peace Prize. Obama get the Nobel Peace Prize. Now let me say this: King was killed. King talking about the United States. It's corrupted force throughout the world. The United States was the most aggressive, and most violent, about the capitalist system, and that process exactly when he comes to talk about the war in Vietnam. They got King killed. And King was also talking about that everybody in America should be able to have an annual income of a certain amount of $4,500. That right there. Talking about the capital system giving money for annual income for all so-called America. What got him killed. So what I'm saying is, we understand that, but a lot of the people are still blinded that were around King. But you had the end of SDLC, the end of all of SNCC, non-violent because they came out against Zion. And all the money that the Jews contributed to these black nations dried up. Right. Okay. So when we look at it, we have no choice but to try to integrate all the African states into a United African Association that will allow us to all become independent within the context of the world economy. And it cannot be done under capitalism.
Definitely. Want to give a big shout out to everybody out there. And when y'all join the program, just let us know who's out there, let me get this right. But yeah, let us know who's out there. Drop a line, say hello, so we can properly greet you and acknowledge us, and we can have that back and forth, because this is about a conversation between our people. You know what I'm saying? And we talking about capitalism. Capitalism, is it freedom or is it exploitation? I know we've been taught in school that capitalism is synonymous with freedom. In order to get freedom, you got to have free market, open market, and free enterprise, and all of these things that they have taught us. But when you do a serious analysis of how it works, how it evolved, how it operates, what it actually does, it does not produce freedom. It actually produces the direct opposite. It creates poverty. It creates crime. It creates. It's based on exploitation, and that's basically what happens. It evolved. It emerged out of systems of exploitation. It emerged out of capital slavery. It emerged out of colonialism. It emerged out of the exploitation of the resources of the world by European people. And the same principle has survived through the enslavement, through colonialism, up until now, where we have capitalism today. So, the only way that we really can get rid of these negative elements is we got to get rid of this system. We always talk about the system is broken. No, it's not. It's doing what it has always been designed to do. We just have to understand what it was designed to do, and it was designed to exploit the people. And we are the people that are constantly being exploited. So if we want to stop this exploitation, we got to get rid of the apparatus which is exploiting us, and that is a system of capitalism. What would you say about that?
Yes, I think that the system of capitalism cannot coexist
with a system of
scientific socialism.
We found that the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, Russia today, tried to do peaceful coexistence with the capitalist system, and the capitalist system wound up defeating the Soviet Union, Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, and making them divide up because they couldn't compete with capitalism. And capitalism did everything it could to destroy the military might of the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, where they gave bin Laden the Stinger missile to shoot down Soviet planes.
We see them doing the same thing in Ukraine today.
What they did
not only to Russia, but also what they did to Libya. How they made the airplanes not to be able to fly to Libya to fight against the enemies of the state in Libya. And consequently, NATO was responsible for the end of Gaddafi as the leader of Libya and the end of Libya as an independent state.
So when we look at those kind of situations right here, even now, today, even though Ukraine should be its own nation or whatever, but we got to look at what has happened. In other words, NATO went from 5 states to about 30 states. All surrounding the Soviet Union, basically. So when we look at it from that standpoint, we see what happened when Soviet Union tried, Russia tried to reclaim what used to be its territory by going into Ukraine.
And I wanted to ask questions about that in particular.
Yes.
That were favoring Russia. He was elected. And he was overthrown. And went to Russia. Okay, so this is the beginning of what was happening in terms of that situation. Understand this. But let me say this. The news media is not objective.
Because the news media was objective, it would talk about all the circumstances around the war. It would not be talked about, it would not be celebrated
the side of any of those forces winning or whatever. You see what I'm saying? And which creates the whole situation for the United States that moved itself into being the patron of a state that is not so-called democratic state, either one called democratic state. Let me say this. As a result, we don't have any objective views reporting. And even when we talk about the Brittany Carter incident, how many Soviet people have been arrested in the United States and put in prison for being an agent, whatever, compared to how many Americans United States for America. So they're going to utilize Brittany Carter as a poster child for anti-Russian propaganda. And she's already began to serve their purpose for that. And so I think what we have to do though is make sure that we understand this. There are three forces in the world. Four forces in the world. Europe, Russia, the United States, and China that are giving assistance to other so-called nations, in the name of democracy, in the name of independence, in the name of freedom. And we know the United States and Europe are not concerned about independence and freedom of other people. So their arms have gone to the enemies of freedom and liberation. The puppet government that are in Africa and all over the place. That they are put money into those reactionary forces. And we know that since the Soviet Union was defeated by capitalism, Russia still has been a source of arms and other equipment for legitimate forces that are fighting for liberation. So we got to be clear about that. And China is still building roads and stuff, in Africa and other places, and does not have Russia or China do not have any troops in any of those countries or any of those areas. But the United States and Western Europe have plenty of troops that have come in to restore order. And what is this order? Neo-colonialism. And we got to understand that. So when I have to sometimes turn the so-called news off because it is not objective. We need to find other sources of our information so that we'll be able to understand what's going on.
And just to add to that conversation, because we've heard a lot of, like you said, Brittany Griner being a poster child for anti-Russian propaganda. But I think it's clear that we understand exactly where we live in the history, not even just the history, the current, the present. I like to point out the fact that right now in Mississippi, there is a brother, I can't think of his name, but he is serving life in prison for less than a gram, for about a gram of marijuana. So this is something similar to what Brittany Griner is so-called in trouble for, but this brother is not serving 9 years; he's serving a life sentence. In Louisiana, it was a brother who was an ex-Desert Storm veteran who basically was given life for $30 worth of marijuana. $30. Now, this brother was fought in a war in Desert Storm. While he was in Desert Storm, he got addicted to drugs. And when he came home, we all know drug addicts. And it wasn't until European people started abusing opioids before they recognized drug addiction is a disease and not a crime. Because when we were suffering from it predominantly with the crack epidemic, it was just looked at as a crime and it criminalized us and it locked a lot of us up. But now they're trying to give people treatment for it. Well, this brother is a brother who was addicted to drugs because he was at war and he was dealing with the things going on at war. And we know what drug addicts do. They steal in order to get high. And this is what this brother was doing. But instead of getting help, this brother was just criminalized in prison for it. And ultimately, they said, okay, you keep on stealing, we're just going to lock you up and throw away the key. And they gave this brother life because he had $30 worth of marijuana, $30 worth of marijuana. Also in Louisiana, it's another black man who was given life for stealing like a weed whacker or something like that. All of these individuals are people who are addicted to drugs. Every last one of these individuals who received life were addicted to drugs, and people who did not deserve to be in prison, but people who actually needed help. But under this system of capitalism and exploitation, and understand in capitalism, everything is reduced to a commodity. So therefore, when you lock people up, they find a way to make money off of that. They profit off of locking people up. They profit off of people being sick. They profit on everything that happens. And anything that happens, whether it be negative or positive, they find a way to profit off of it. That's why this system is so detrimental. And it's predatorial, and it's so bad for us as African people, black and brown people, because we are the most vulnerable of the population, and it's predatorial, and it preys on the most vulnerable of this population. So when we look at the anti-Russian propaganda being used used Brittany Griner, being a poster child of this, we have to be clear of the hypocrisy in just that whole statement, that whole concept of saying, well, look at what Russia did to Brittany. They gave her 9 years and they giving black people life in prison for the same thing. But we don't want to talk about that. So, I yield on that.
Yeah, I want to say that we talk about that. Let's talk about the economy.
When they talk about the crack so-called epidemic, where you could have 5 grams of crack and get a life sentence, and you can have 500 pounds of cocaine, straight cocaine, and get 5 years or less. In terms of how they treat us as compared to how they treated white people in America in terms of the drug situation. And we got to understand that marijuana had also, we had people that had a certain amount of grams, small amount of marijuana, not to as a drug, being a drug addict, but for recreational use or sale. And many of them are still, most of the people of marijuana charges have got, black folks are still in prison right now. Mm-hmm. They have not been released. And this has been since the 1980s and 1990s. So look at that. We got to look at that. So one thing I think we have to deal with, like I say, is for us to not become a part of anybody else's propaganda mode or whatever. So therefore, we objectively deal with the situation. It might have been a mistake for the Soviet Union to fall into the trap of NATO by invading Ukraine and not being ready to do the battle, if we go about what the news coverage is, okay? So, but I want to say, where we stand as a nation, we don't have to take any kind, at this point, our thing is to build up our nation, to do the things that we're necessary. And then as we go along, we'll develop our foreign policy, all the policies and things that will be necessary for a nation to exist. So consequently, we don't have to jump into everything that's going down there, but we have to be sure that we are on the right side of whatever situation that is that we're talking about. And one thing we have to begin to do is not allow ourselves to be used by the media to talk all kind of negative propaganda about other people. Even out Venezuela, a lot of rich Venezuelans have come into America, and Venezuela has the largest and richest oil field of any nation in the world right now at this present time. Yet, its people, through the embargo by the United States, have been forced into a starvation mode. And they have led the people who have gained their wealth to come to America. And they are stopping people at the border who are impoverished by the policy of embargo by the United States. Same thing with Cuba, same thing with Haiti, almost any nation, because America still says it has the Monroe Doctrine. That is, America controls the Western Hemisphere. Even Mexico, the situations that's in Mexico is a result of United States policy from the beginnings of Mexico as a nation, when it took Texas and took all the other half of Mexico that they called the United States now. Okay, so even when we talk about that, and the people of Mexico got those big companies like Ford and General Motors and all that, and they're paying people cents, an hour, instead of what should be paid for anybody that's working on an automobile or creating automobiles or whatever. So we got to we have to be careful when we look at these countries and things and see what's going on with them. Why are all the Mexicans got all these gas and they're fighting and killing each other, in Mexico as we talking right now, right across the border, and because of the capitalist system has created a situation by which illegal drug activity has been the greatest profit of all industries. And we got to look at it is an industry. And even now, when they're changing the laws on marijuana, we see how big an industry that is in those states that they have made marijuana conviction free.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I want to
to
go to our audience because our audience is getting kind of active now. This business is picking up. So let me see, make sure I'm on. Y'all can hear me. Y'all want to give a big shout out to our comrade Jorge Che Nueves. How you doing? This is a brother from the Attica movement. Y'all haven't had an opportunity to check this brother out. Yeah, this brother has a story that will blow your mind, and we are definitely going to share it on the New African Broadcast Association. We're going to share this brother because I'm sure he has a wealth of knowledge and experience and a lot to add. But Brother Jorge said, there are many of our people whom are in prison for no crime committed. Definitely it is called modern day slavery. Definitely. A matter of fact, the Constitution even say that. That's this crazy thing. The Constitution just said that they had several states who just voted to get rid of that verbiage or that that part of the Constitution saying that you could be legally enslaved if you committed a crime. But actually, several it's other states who didn't. And I think it was. The 13th Amendment. In California, they said they didn't even want to deal with even changing this because they feared that it could interfere or it would lead to those who've been incarcerating demanding fair payment for the work that they did, because people getting paid inside the prison like a few cents per hour, doing the type of work that would command $30-$40 an hour on the outside. And so, there are some states that said we ain't even going to entertain changing the wording in the Constitution because we, might mess up a good thing, might mess up our slave system. But, a few people have changed. But really, it doesn't matter if you change it or not, if the conditions are still the same, if they are still exploiting prison labor, making billions of dollars. There are multi-billion-dollar corporations who get their labor from the prison system. Several. So it don't matter if you change the wording or not if you're not going to change the policy. I see our brother. I'm gonna try to make sure. Confidence Chizoro Okiki. Is that right? Right, brother. I'm trying to put your comment on the page. There it is. Kevin Prophecy Gary. Okay, got to stop you right there. I love you, my brother, and all that kind of stuff. But on this platform, we never use my government name. I got a rule. That's my number one rule. Don't use my government name. You know what I'm saying? Prophecy cool, brother. J-Rod cool. I need to change that. Only reason I don't change that on Facebook because a lot of my old classmates get in contact with me in that way. But so now you know. But anyway, I'm working on a hybrid network of families, New Africans, but Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, and Gullah Geechee Nation. Sounds like something that is really interesting. That's something that I would love to hear more about that, man. If you want to, man, you can drop into my inbox and give me more information on that, and we can converse and see how we can make that happen even bigger, better, get the word out about it at least. Jorge, again, we are living in critical times where many of our people are targets of this system. That's true. In reality, we've been living in these critical times because our people have always been targets of this system on one way or another. Because um, from the inception of this system on this particular continent, our people have been targets of this system. The indigenous people have been committed genocide on. Our African people have been made into enslaved people. So you had one group of people who were murdered in order to gain the land and the resources. Another people were brutalized and exploited to benefit and cultivate the land and create the products of it. So yeah, you definitely right about that. We must understand that we live in a system that has no conscience or mind. That's right. That's right. I mean, because it's based on exploitation. That's the purpose of it. That's the driving force behind it. So it's going to do, what it's designed to do, what it's created to do. It is fueled by exploitation. So, tuning in, revolutionary comrades. This is my guy Joe Gonzalez. How you doing? I'm so glad you tuning in. Good to see and hear from you again, brother Joe Gonzalez. Let me see. Hey, again, thank you, brother, for that wonderful introduction. I've been a freedom fighter within the New York prison system for the last 54 years. Damn right. That's another thing, we always want to do. We need to give our flowers to our elders and our freedom fighters right now. A lot of times we want to prop up our people after they become martyrs or, transition. We want to give us flowers now, but let's give our flowers, to our elders and the people who've been putting in that revolutionary work for so many years. So thank you, brother. I really do appreciate the hard work that you have been doing and the work that you continue to do. Like I always say with our Grandmaster teacher right over here, Grandmaster teacher for Dolly, how long you been in the struggle, Grandmaster teacher?
60 years.
60 years. Comrade been in the struggle for 60 years and still going strong. So, right now, let's give a Grandmaster teacher for Dolly and Jorge Che Nueves, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Let's give them some likes right now because they've been putting in their work and they're still going strong and they're still doing it. So, that's a beautiful thing. But so yeah, thank y'all for y'all comments and participation in the show. Because like I said, y'all are the most advanced, politically aware, and intelligent audience in the land, and y'all make a big part of this show. But yeah, we've been talking about capitalism and how it is basically been exploiting the people. And on the radio broadcast, you talked about how basically in every part of the globe, American has military bases set up. It's really just a slick way of imperialism. It's like the new modernized empirical way of where we don't necessarily just make it obvious that we are controlling or we are occupying your land, but we got a military base set up, in your land to make sure that we're able to do exactly what we want to do when we want to do it. And if you ever get out of line too far, we can automatically just like that come crush you. But yeah, you was calling, like that. It's an African and go into that again. What you were saying about
in the States, it's called North American Command. In Africa, you have Africa that was set up by George Bush and implemented by Obama. Then you have Eurocom in Europe, around certain states in Europe, around Berlin or whatever. And throughout, you got bases in Iraq, bases in even Afghanistan still has a slight little base there, and South Korea, the longest held, one of the longest held. But then you got places like the Philippines that go all the way back to 1898. Then you got Guantanamo on the Cuban land that still exists as a U.S. base. And so in order for them to move, they have to have their bases. Like, for example, in 1964, when there was a socialist government getting ready to come to power in the Dominican Republic, the United States sent the Marines over there to keep the socialist government from coming into power. So these are the kind of things that we have to understand why they have these bases, and they are military bases. They are designed to stay in control, and they have, I think, 100,000 troops in Saudi Arabia. So we got to look at those kind of situations to understand when we talk about imperialism. This is the essence of imperialism, and whenever the public government or the reactionary government that's in power in those places called on Europe and the United States, they called NATO to come in and to smash a country like Libya. There was a functioning independent nation that was giving people money from their oil, and now you got war in Libya as a result of Obama's assassination of Gaddafi.
Definitely. Yeah, thanks for that information. Let me do this.
Yeah, thanks for that information, that well of information. I see, Jorge, you still conversing with us. You say I organized the first Young Lords Party in the New York prison system in 1969 in Attica prison. Okay, all right. Give me a little bit about your bio. Prior to that, I was a part of the Black Panther Party within the prison system. So yeah, so like I said, we got some real revolutionary freedom fighters out there. Not only on the panel, but also in the audience. Damn, I muted myself. Hold on, y'all hear me now? Okay. So yeah, everybody out there, thank y'all for listening. This is the NABA, New African Broadcast Association. You're listening to the Voices of New Africa. Give us a like, share this, let people know what we're doing. Anybody that you know who would benefit or would be interested in this type of content, drop a line, drop a line in the comment section. Just drop their name so they can get a notification and let them know that we exist, because we're trying to educate the uneducated and re-educate the miseducated and collectively work together so we can tear down this system of oppression. Because y'all, like I said, we can do better. We must do better. All of us know, we can see what the problem is, but it's one thing to see what the problem is. It's another thing to figure out a solution. And once you figure out a solution, you got to put that solution into action, So this is just one step of the many steps that we have to collectively take together. But we will take them together and we will accomplish our ultimate goal of liberation. But Comrade Kakai, man, how you doing, Comrade? We've been talking about capitalism.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of the information that we're getting out to the people are basically stories about European nations, their descendants, and their experience with controlling the capitalist economic system that exists worldwide now. Many of the issues that they have amongst themselves has nothing to do with our liberation and freedom. It's good to know that information, to know that the reason Russia is having some issues with the Ukraine, not just because of the United States supporting them, but the fact that there was potential movement from the Ukrainian government to become a member of NATO, which is something that would be a direct threat to Russia, having a NATO organization, NATO-sponsored country in its midst. And they've had a lot of little skirmishes about other nations trying to be a part of NATO, but it's getting to a point where Russia has to put its foot down. But that's their business, because they're really nitpicking about who's going to control the resources of the world. And they're having their fight, just like here in the United States, the North and the South had their spout. They back in love right now. They run in the United States, but back then they were bickering about how to control the wealth of this nation, mainly the unfair advantage that the South had over the North with the ability to access free labor. Neither one of them talked about securing our future as a independent sovereign nation of new Africans on this Western hemisphere. That's because they control the narrative when they control the land. We need to begin to recognize how much power it is for us to focus on having land, how much power it is for us to be able to create the laws and policies and statutes that govern ourselves and what we believe is correct, in harmony with the earth and in harmony with the liberation of our people. And they go hand in hand. But when we start mixing, being subjective, having a subjective perspective, a European subjective perspective of what's going on in this world, none of it would be beneficial for us as Black people. So we need to understand the energy that we must place in being firm, yet fair to our people about the economic system that's best for us. And if you don't know, and we saying you, at least as new Africans, should try it. Don't let someone else dictate to you what you should try to obtain your freedom and liberation. You determine that. And that's a part of becoming a free people, a free-minded people, thinking in terms of what's best for you as a people. And that's where I'm at. I care less about the blonde-headed, blue-eyed devils bickering over some stuff. It does affect us if we be a part of the United States and we start getting rid of a buffer. So any hardship that comes from another European nation to the United States hits us first. It buffers them, and then they're able to make the adjustments before it affects their people, because they've used this tactic. And if we are historians of our story, then we'll know that one of their tactics is in order to colonize a nation that claims to be independent, is to make the people suffer first so that they can be a part of upliftment of the suffering people to rule that nation. But they become puppet nations when that happens. And that's what they do. They use their tactic. And they use their tactic on each other. Make the people suffer first, and a revolution should develop soon after. But we need to have our own nation. We need to be able to stand alone when they have these issues. They stealing from each other, and families are in cahoots with others. All that. That's white people stuff. That's what they known to do. But it doesn't benefit us one way or another. And that's why we need to remember wholeheartedly that the ideology and philosophy needs to start first with us being able to teach our children how to think for themselves, how to think in terms of having your own nation, liberation, independent sovereign nation, in terms of what's best for us as an economic system. We have to teach our children. And we have to remember that fundamental step needs to be permanent amongst our movement and our struggle, so that we'll continue to produce great leaders in the future with the same ideology and philosophy.
And no, comrade, you Hold on. Hold on, my bad. I was muted. I'm sorry. Thank you, brother Joe Gonzalez, for that. Man, I was talking some excellent stuff too, and y'all didn't hear none of it. Man, I'm sorry. But no. What basically? Let me rewind. Because we've been so miseducated in this country, there are a lot of our people who believe that the key to our liberation is actually engaging into capitalism and being just more effective capitalists. And I think that's why it's really important for us to properly educate ourselves, because the issue or the subject of reparations will increase. You're going to hear more and more about that as the years go on. Right now, it's just a little slight discussion about it. You have little groups about it, but the discussion that you have on it now is a lot more than it was years back. And we understand dialectics, things develop from the simple to the complex. So even in California, they're talking about, proposing giving Black residents of California reparation like $200 and some $1,000. And one thing that I think is important for us to understand, especially when you understand how capitalism works and all of these type of things, that when we deal with reparations, money alone is not going to solve our problems. A check alone is not going to solve our problems. We need much more than simply a check to even start to address the issues with the things that have been going on with us. That's why, being properly educated is extremely important, because if you basically right now, you give everybody a check, and especially if you have the people who have a colonized mindset, then basically we're just going to give it back to the system. Are we going to engage in just a form of predatory capitalism ourselves, and the system will perpetuate, and we've done nothing to deal with the psychological damages of being under a system of oppression for over 400 years? We've done nothing to deal with the generational curses in which we have inherited. And when I mean by curses, I mean the trauma that we have faced and all the negative impacts of this system. We haven't regained all of the land in which was stolen from our ancestors. So a check, that's just a small part of what reparations have to be about. And and I encourage everybody, it's the conversation of reparation, which eventually it will gain momentum. Trust me, eventually, it might be slowly, but eventually it will gain momentum. But as it begins to gain momentum, we have to make sure that we articulate clearly that reparations is a whole. It is not simply about a check, about money, because that ain't gonna solve our problem. We just get a check, and one of the first things they'll end up doing is driving inflation up to the point where that check that you get ain't even worth what it used to be. It can't even buy what it once could buy. So really, economically, we're not even in a better situation. But you have any words? Anything you want to add to that?
Yes, I want to say that we must not narrow our views. We must. If we're going to do a foreign policy as a government, we got to understand everything that's going on. And we got to begin because we get caught up in a trap if we don't understand what's going on everywhere in the world. And so I'm not just an African historian, I'm a world historian. And as a world historian, I want to know about what's going on everywhere in the world that's going to affect us as a people. And so we must begin not to say, oh, that's white folks over there, and they got their business. The white folks created all the world wars, and the world wars destroyed Africa. 60 million or more Africans died as a result of World War II. World War I, they had Africans fighting for democracy in Europe, out of Senegal. So we got to make sure that we're clear about what's going on, because they had us in the United States fighting for democracy in World War I. That's why the NAACP signed off on Woodrow Wilson when he said that World War is about a war on democracy. And then when we came back, our soldiers were lynched on the streets of America in the so-called Red Summer 1919. So what I'm saying is that we have to be clear
about what's going on everywhere in the world, because it's a threat that these people represent to us, and we don't should be caught up in internal fights or battles or anything like that. But we got to begin to understand what that is, because they would catch us up in their stuff. They would catch us. They have. They have. Even with this Brittany Griner thing, people have been caught up talking about welcoming her home. Africa is your home. New Africa is your home. Okay, so she is not a person of New Africa. In other words, she's of New African descent, but she is not a person that is talking about organizing our nation and doing those things. So we have to be clear about what's going on, and those forces that are able to do that, they are the forces that should be able to do that. The other forces are able to deal with economy or whatever their expertise is, then they can deal with that. But some of us got to understand what's going on in the world that we live in, and talk about how we can not get caught up, and become part of a world revolutionary process. But still, that does not stop us from doing those things that we're talking about, building a government, and building a nation, and all those things. But we got to be careful, because we'll say, oh yeah, that's them over there gonna pull you in over there with their fights. That should be about themselves, right? So that they have a history of that, 500 years of history of that, of Africans and Native people getting caught up and divide themselves up and on the side of European.
I'm saying, the same thing about what you're saying with knowing what's going on over there, being aware of it. How it affects us is based on the amount of knowledge we know about what's going on. So at some point, we'll come to the determination if it's relevant for us or if it's not, and we must remain focused on our goal as people who are striving for independence and liberation, and make sure that our forces and our energy is directed to the positive direction of attaining those goals. And then we can add information or whatever's going on.
No, because they're going to try to stop us.
That's why we look at what they're doing.
That's why we should
we look at what they're doing, analyze what's going on. Right. And we know
they're already doing what you said that they're going to do. They're already doing that.
But shouldn't we give our people the benefit of the doubt, if they're well astute people, that they recognize through the analyzation of that situation what's beneficial
for us and what's not,
okay,
and move on
so we don't.
to what's positive.
You and I have to give them that information. Everybody.
That's right, and that's right.
Because everybody's not studying that. So
Well,
so we don't fall into the pitfall.
That's right. We know how cunning and baffling they are. We know what they've done in the past. We know how they infiltrated
major organizations for the struggle for the liberation of our people and what they did. I think Prophecy mentioned in Comrades, and I'm glad to see my brother back last week on Conversation Between Comrades, how out of all the people they assassinated, they went up in there and didn't even care if you knew that they was going up in there to kill Chairman Fred Hampton. Everybody else, they kind of hid ducked behind door, snipers and stuff like that. But when it's a true man about focusing on what's good for our people, and yeah, we see what's going on, we analyzing it, but we got a job to do, and that's to get our liberation. They killed him. They went up in there and shot him right next to his wife and didn't even care. That's how ruthless these people are. So we don't care about a lot of the stuff they arguing about. We know that we need to watch them because both of them are our enemies. But beyond that, come to the table with what needs to be done to help us liberate our people and develop an independent sovereign nation of the Republic of New Africa. And damn the rest of y'all, because if you ain't a part of that, I mean, we got a lot of, I'm not going to bring no controversy in here. But damn it, what's going on with them making deals and all that ain't had nothing to do with Grindr. The only reason Grindr is left is because somewhere down the line we're gonna find out how it benefited them. So we need to look at it and watch it. It's somewhere down the line. How is it? Because and I'm just speculating. Idealism I don't practice, but that speculation can only be done for why they did what they did for her. Because she's a woman, she's black. That's two reasons why they wasn't going to do nothing for her. And then on top of that, we have to know from our past experience with them that there's a reason why they let her go. I mean, reason why they went into that deal with the Russians to get her released. Because I don't trust him, man. We should never trust him. We always keep one eye open. And we look at what
they're doing. I don't care. What why they got one individual as opposed to.
I don't care nothing about it either. That's
but what I'm saying though is that we got to be able to understand that we have to know what's going on, period, over with a wide lens.
So what's going on over there?
Not with a narrow lens, but with a wide lens.
What's going on over there, Grandmaster?
Okay, so what's going on? It's the same thing that happened. Why the United States got Soviet? It's a part of their politics. It's part of their anti-communist rhetoric. It's part of their, that goes all the way back to the end of World War II. In other words, where they created NATO. But at that time, the Soviet Union had Eastern allies in Poland and places like that. That disintegrated. So what I'm saying is, we don't want to get caught up in that situation, but we got to understand it. In order to not get caught up, we have to understand the situation, whatever that situation is. Okay, but let me say this, because we can't get down narrow and become so narrow that we won't achieve our objective. So what we agree on is nothing will stop us from doing that.
I'm jumping in
a little bit, just a little bit. So let me do this. I think first and foremost, we have to make sure that we are first identifying with our struggle, right, with what we're doing, our goals and our objective, which is an independent, sovereign Black nation. Right. That has to be on the forefront. And like to what you were saying, it's really easy, especially under a power structure that has control over a mega media machine. Right. It's really easy to get wrapped and caught into things that's going on that don't really benefit our movement. Right. You know what I'm saying? But on the same time, we have to be clear and we have to understand exactly what's going on with everything globally. We have to be educated on what's going on so we can make sure that we are approaching things in the most efficient, the most effective way possible. And one of the most important, we understand dialectics, one of the most important things that you need is information. You got to have information, because if you don't have the proper information, it's going to be really difficult for you to have to make the proper decisions. So we got to know, but we have to identify first and foremost with our struggle above everything else. So we can come up here and we can talk about Kanye West, we can talk about Kyrie, we can talk about Brittany Griner, we can talk about all of those things. I like talking about those things because that captures the attention of the people. But the reason why we're talking about that is to show the contradictions in these particular stories, so we can point out what y'all need to actually be thinking about. You know what I'm saying? Why we need, it's a reason we don't talk about Kanye because we want to support Kanye and go buy his tennis shoes. That ain't why we doing that. We ain't supporting Kyrie because we want to go to his basketball games or anything like that. No, we want to point out the contradiction of things that happen to these brothers and sisters, so we can show. Yeah, we can show what's going on with the system, and that's the reason why we got to get out of that damn system. Right. And we got to create our own system. We got to focus on our own struggle, so we won't have to deal with that type of nonsense. Right. So, just to be clear, we got to understand. I mean, I love talking about what's going on in the news and stuff like that, but not so we can get wrapped up into their particular movements and their particular agenda. We got our own movements. Right. We have our own goals and objectives that we have to have laser focus on in order for us to make sure that we put ourselves in the best condition possible. And I want to say what's up to Mama Ayo. What's up?
When you saying what's up to Mama Ayo, just like this Ukrainian thing in the United States going on. Our position should be whatever they're doing over there, stop sending them that money, because that money should be coming to us to help develop organizations or stations, community stations for safety and protection. Since you guys talk about we have all of this crime in the black community and black on black crime, stop sending that money to the Ukraine and send it to our community so we can develop that cohesive policing and sponsorship and fatherhood, brotherhood, motherhood community centers in our community with that money so we can protect and defend ourselves. That's what we need to be talking about. We see what's going on over there. That's a bunch of I don't even want to say. Can we say that on Facebook? What you talking about? I'm talking about what I'm talking about when we talking about. What you talking about? I'm talking about what I'm talking about when we talking about looking at different things, and we should because we have they need to give us the 300 million going in the direction of freedom and liberation. That's what I was talking about when I made that statement. And any other thing that happens, like Brother Prophecy said with Kaye and all that, the perspective should be a new African perspective on how that contradiction needs to be blasted out so our people can continuously understand why it's important that we have our own independent sovereign nation. We're not supporting these folks. We're not talking about this stuff just simply because it's news. Like Prophecy said, a lot of the stuff we like to talk about because people want to know what's going on. We want to get the word out, but we still going to tell you the perspective, the new African perspective that leads us in the right direction of independence and freedom. And that's why we do look at these folks, not like for the reasons of other people. Right.
All right.
So have we come to an understanding about what we're talking about?
Yes, I think we have. And we ought to also talk about all these billions
they sent it to the moon.
Yeah.
Okay. Man. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, man. You saw Prophecy. What about all the billions?
Go talk about the moon, man. What's going on in the moon, man?
No, first of all, I can't understand how you're gonna allow somebody to send something up here.
Just circling around the moon right now.
Yeah,
it costs billions of dollars.
So okay,
United States.
So okay, let me make sure.
They owe us. They owe us, man, and they doing shit like that.
No, I want to get clear on the story because I don't think I'm familiar with it. I actually like science and astrophysics.
Last week. Okay, then last week we've had a missile. What they call it? Spaceship. United States has set to the moon, circle the moon. The next year, next couple of years, they'll have people in it. This right here is what they got.
One that see if it'll work.
Man, it's something like Total Recall when they live on.
Is that for like a tourist type thing? Or they supposed to be sending people so they can see the moon?
I think they're gonna sell. They're gonna try to sell some people on the moon.
I think they're gonna sell. They're gonna try to
I don't think the moon really habitable.
No, you put a bubble on it like they did Total Recall and produce and pump up the bubble with oxygen. That's how they give us stuff that they're already to try it out. And they put it in the movie, get us acclimated to it so we won't get culture shock when they introduce the world.
See, this is the thing.
The purpose of all of this space exploration is to find a place where they can get more wealth. That's what it's all. It's not about science. The scientists are the richest people on Earth now in terms of creating these equipments and stuff like that. So it's all about having a European having the ability to try to find more sources of gold and other resources that bring them back, so to increase their wealth.
In other words, these European people have basically colonized and exploited the entire earth. So now we got to find other places so they can go and try to exploit the resources of the land. Okay, yeah, I got to understand that. Yeah, I mean, that's the mode. That's the mode of operation. So might well do it in space too. So you know.
So what they stole some more land from while we were getting to all this. You know what that is?
What's that?
That's the internet. They done control the whole land mass in the internet world. Because everybody that's making money on the internet with these companies are European based or European descendants. And they stole that. And they stole that land from a Nigerian who didn't know the value of what he had put his hands on when he was a part of creating the networking between computers, and in turn created the internet. That Nigerian guy, I can't think of his name right now.
I'm sorry, y'all. I kicked both of y'all off by mistake. Y'all, I'm about to go to a quick commercial real quick, and hopefully get these brothers back on the show. I'm pushing the wrong thing. I'm messing up stuff. I do apologize, but this is the New African Perspective. You got Kakaye and Grandmaster Teacher having a lively conversation, but we'll be right back.
America, full of promises. Time to cash them in. You run from it quick. You never keep your word. I learned from it quick. You keep abusing me. You dumb. Europeans murdered 98% of the indigenous population right here in Turtle Island in order to steal the land. An entire nation of African people were captured and forced into a brutal system of chattel slavery just so they could work and cultivate the land. All wars are fought over land, not over terrorism, not over religion, not even to win the hearts and minds of the people, but for the actual land and the resources within the land. So it is safe to say that land is the foundation to all freedom. So if we truly want to be free, then our struggle is for land. Free the land.
All right, here we go. We back. We're back now. Let me. I gotta acknowledge Sister Ayodele. She left some comments for us. So yeah, Sister Ayodele, good to see you on the broadcast. She said, "What is the ultimate goal for building the nation? We have identified land and independence." That's right, damn right. So you know what I'm saying. Ultimately, everything we talk about, you know, we got to go back to we trying to gain land independence. So exactly, Queen said dialectical and historical materialism.
Historical materialism, dialect. That's right. That's what I'm talking about.
Freedom Power. I see you. What's up? Glad you checking in, comrade. Mr. Freedom Power, one of our most loyal viewers. See, you left a link to a site. What's that link to, brother? Let us know, so you know we know before we go click on it. You don't see nothing horrifying or anything, but I know it's some that's revolutionary and something very beneficial. But I want to thank everybody for joining in. You know, we've been having a really lively discussion. As always, I want to appreciate all the comments and everybody participating. But just remember, you know, we do this 5 times during the week. Tomorrow, join Madam President and Madam Vice President on the New African Perspective, and then one day after that, Tuesday, the Foundation of the Nation, and Thursday, conversations between comrades. Hopefully, Comrade T will be back, and if not, you know, it'll just be me and all of my other comrades, which are y'all. And then join us again next Sunday right here again on the Voices of New Africa. But before we get out of here, give everybody a chance to get like our final word. I'm gonna go to you, Kai. I'm gonna go to you first. What's your final words? You want to say to the people?
For the people, land and independence is what we're striving for. Like Queen Mother, Mama Aya Deli, Vice President Mama Ayo. We got to stay focused, people. It's going to be a long road, a long journey. But remember, the stuff that we need to do is right in front of us. It's hard to see, but as the time passes, you'll see the development of things that you've put your time and effort in to develop. And we'll be moving forward. Just don't give up. We going to win. It may not be instantaneous, but if we keep doing little by little, we'll get there.
All right. Grandmaster Teacher.
Yeah. Okay. So revolutions are created by leaps. So we, even though we can't create the leaps, but through our analysis, through our dialectical materialist methods, we can begin to predict how things are going to turn out. And I want to say that we don't want to narrow our view. We want to broaden our view. When we broaden our view, then we're going to take in consideration everything that is necessary for us to become free and independent and have our own land base and our own power. It's all about power. And African people throughout the world, and African people and other people, colored people of the world, have been left out of the power equation. So therefore, when we talk about organizing our nation, we're joining the group of nations that are about African liberation. And New Africa is one of the broadest areas because we're talking about not just the United States of America, we're talking about the whole Western Hemisphere being able to come together and coalesce at one point in time once we organize our own base where we are.
All right. And I will say that agree with both of you all 1,000% on some you said, Grandmaster Teacher. We have to definitely make sure that we broaden our view, our worldview, and everything. We have to take in everything. We have to study everything. I think there is a mistake that some of us make, because I've heard some of our people say we can only study things from a New African perspective, or things that are from a New African perspective, when I think the correct way to put that is everything that we study must be put into a New African perspective. We study everything from everywhere. You got to study Miles. We got to study Nkrumah. You got to study Chavez. We got to study Castro. We got to study everything, because your solution could be something that's right in front of your face, but you have this narrow point of view, this narrow way of looking at things, and you can't even see it. So in order to grow, you got to go into territories. We got to go into waters that you haven't been into, waters that you might not be comfortable with. That's the only way you can grow. That's the way that you grow. If you keep on just going into the familiar territories, then there's a limit on your growth. There's only so far you can grow. So we cannot limit ourselves. We have to be willing to step outside of that box, broaden our horizon, study different things, study everything, and bring them back to our struggle. That's why we have to identify concretely with our goals and objectives. And we got to utilize everything that we can get our hands on in order to achieve those goals and objectives. My name is Comrade Ye Rob, Brother Prophecy. I'm with every Sunday. My brothers, I love these two brothers, Kakaye and Elder Fadali, and we will see y'all next week. So we'll see y'all tomorrow. But until then, we want to leave y'all with our battle cry, and that is free the land, free the land, free the land by any end. Yeah, by any and all means necessary. Y'all see y'all again next week. Y'all love y'all.
We always say the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be